If you love exploring old cocktail recipes as much as I do, then you're in for a treat, because today we're going to be examining the hidden gems in drinks by Jacques Straub, written in 1914. Welcome to Cocktail Limelight. I'm your host, Erick Castro, and today we're going to be exploring some hidden gems from one of my favorite cocktail books of all time. For those of you that know me, you know that I've made my career by exploring the drinks and examining the drinks that you find in really old school vintage cocktail books. One of the first books that I got my mitts on when I was doing the menu for Rick House back in 2008 was this book that we've been talking about right now. Although the author was born in Europe, he was the wine steward at the world-famous Pendennis Club in Louisville, Kentucky. And it was during his time there that he began to compile over 700 recipes so that he could put them in this book right here. And the book made a huge impact on me, as it was one of the first times that I saw so many cocktail recipes crammed into a book without filler, without fluff, just straight up specs and recipes. And it's because of this affinity that I have for this book that I want to share with you some of my favorite recipes out of it that you don't really hear about in too many places. So let's go ahead and start with the first one now. The first drink that we're making is called the FAIRBANKS, and it's an apricot accented old-fashioned riff for those of you out there that love your rye whiskey. To make one, first we start out with 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. Then we follow that up with a ½ ounce of apricot liqueur. And then 2 ounces of good old American rye whiskey. Next, we're gonna add some ice to our mixing glass and then stir it up. One tip I would have for you out there when you're stirring a cocktail up is either put your fingers at the very top or at the very bottom of the mixing glass. That way the heat from your hand doesn't interfere with the cooling of the cocktail in front of you. Now that we're done stirring, let's go ahead and pour this bad boy over a big rock in a double old-fashioned glass. Now for the garnish, we're gonna hit it with a freshly peeled lemon twist. There you have it, the FAIRBANKS cocktail. The next cocktail that we're gonna be making is called the Daisy. Now the Daisy is a very loosely defined category of drink where the sweetening agent is generally grenadine, raspberry syrup, curacao, or yellow chartreuse. See what I mean about it being very loosely defined, because sometimes you see those, sometimes you don't, and it seems to be a style of cocktail that was very, very popular in the 1860s and 1870s, but kind of was already starting to fall out of favor by the 1890s. Which is a damn shame, because this style of drink, when done correctly, is very beautiful and very delicious. Let's go ahead and make one now. This one here is called the Star Daisy. This one we're gonna build in our tin, and it starts with 3/4 ounce lime juice, 3/4 ounce grenadine, an ounce of London dry gin. In addition to an ounce of apple brandy. Now you might be thinking to yourself, wait, apple brandy mixed with gin? I know that kind of seems weird on paper, but trust me, the drink works really, really well because of the two. What ends up happening is that the fruity notes of the brandy and the botanicals of the gin interplay with the grenadine and the lime and create something much, much larger than the sum of their parts. Since this drink's served on crushed ice, what I'm gonna do is throw a few pieces of crushed ice into my tin and give it a good shake. Once I have all the ingredients in solution, aerated, and nice and chilled, I'm going to pour that mixture into a nice chilled glass. And lastly, for a bit of effervescence, we're gonna top the cocktail with just a small splash of club soda. And one thing you have to remember is that back when this drink was popular, refrigeration and food transport wasn't what it is today. You couldn't go to the grocery store in the middle of December and pick up strawberries and blueberries like you can today. So back then, a lot of the garnishes for some of these drinks weren't very specific. It would just say garnished with seasonal produce, which means that today when we're recreating these drinks, it gives us a lot of freedom in how we choose to garnish it. So as for me, I'm gonna hit it with a lime wedge, a few blueberries, and a couple of raspberries for color. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Star Daisy. Now the last cocktail that we're gonna be making is made with Irish whiskey, which fills me with joy because you don't see enough Irish whiskey in old school cocktail books. This cocktail is called the Emerald, and essentially it's a riff on the Manhattan, except with orange bitters in place of Ango and Irish whiskey in place of American whiskey. Let's go ahead and make one. First, I'm gonna start out with my mixing glass and then add 2 dashes of orange bitters. I'm gonna follow that up with 1 ounce of Sweet Vermouth, topped off with 2 ounces of Irish whiskey. And that's it, 3 ingredients, I'm ready to stir. Let's do this. And now the drink is done and ready to be strained. And although the Emerald cocktail is generally garnished with a cherry, I actually think it works really well with an orange twist, which is what I'm gonna use today. But your mileage may vary, so it's totally up to you on what you choose. The Emerald cocktail. That is ridiculously delicious. Which just goes further to prove my point. Like, if these drinks are so good, how come they're not better known? And that's why I have so much fun digging into some of these old cocktail books, finding cocktails and sharing them with people like you, sharing them with guests at the bar, and shoot, just enjoying them myself, to be honest. Which really makes me hope that you enjoy this episode as much as I did. With that said, if you have any cocktails that you would like me to tackle in a future episode, or even better, any books that you would like me to tackle in a future episode, write it down below, and who knows, maybe it'll be featured on a future episode. In the meantime, if you'd like to dive deeper into the world of bartending and cocktails with us, be sure to check out the Bartender at Large podcast, which is available on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else where quality podcasts are found. And with all that out of the way, be sure to muddle that subscribe button, and we will catch you next week on the next episode of Cocktail Limelight.